Yo, what's going on, everybody? So, I wanted to hop on here today and tell you guys about the worst job I ever had. It was a weird point in my life because it was right after I graduated school, but I wasn't pursuing a career in what I graduated for. And all my friends were like finishing up as well and getting careers and doing what they went to school for. So I felt kind of lost and like anxious and felt like I had blown it. And I wasn't really in a position where I could pick and choose what I was doing, right? I needed to start making money and I just took jobs kind of at random without doing any due diligence or prioritizing like my well-being, my mental health. So I was kind of going shitty job to shitty job, but this one really takes the cake. So in the spring, summer, and fall, it was an irrigation company, and I got hired as a service tech. So I would like drive around doing service calls. If something breaks, you call a guy, he comes and fixes it. That was going to be me, but only for irrigation. And in the winter season, you would snow plow. Now, when I joined these guys, there was only like a month or two left of the winter season. So I just rode around with them, these random guys, and I would just shovel for them, right? Hop out of their truck, shovel the walkways, throw down salt, all this stuff. That wasn't too bad. I mean, the hours were horrible. You would just be on call in the middle of the night. It's Ottawa in Canada, so it was snowing constantly. And then if it was going to like continuously snow and you were out all night, you would go home, sleep for like 4 hours, and then go right back out for like another 18-hour shift. It was crazy. Most of those guys would just like park their truck in an industrial parking lot like Walmart or behind a factory and just pass out in the truck for like 3 hours, call it a night, get back out there for like another 20 hours. The majority of the guys I worked with were extremely rough and not enjoyable. I mean, they were not fun to be around. They were super negative. They were always in horrible moods. They were constantly broke. Some of them were on drugs. None of them would eat anything. I'd be working with them for like I said, like 18 hours. We wouldn't stop and get food one single time. These guys just lived off Diet Pepsi, cigarettes, triple triples, which is just like coffee in Canada from Tim Hortons, right? That's all they would eat and drink. There was no actual substance, nothing. They were all active alcoholics. When we would be out snowplowing, they'd be constantly drinking, all of them drinking and driving. It didn't matter. And honestly, it was better that way because if they weren't drinking, they were going to be the biggest asshole on planet Earth. They were going to be miserable. I was scared to talk to these guys. They treated me like shit because I was the new guy. I was the youngest one. It was pretty much just a bunch of old alcoholic old heads who worked here. And I didn't fit in at all. They pawned everything off to me. They took out all their aggression on me. It was just rough, like they hated me for no reason at all. If you tried to make any small talk or anything like that, they would just be miserable fucks. They wouldn't want to talk about that shit. They were constantly ranting about politics, the state of the world, negative shit, negative everything. Everything that came out of their mouths was just like horrifically negative. So it didn't take me very long to realize like, wow, I really don't like this. I don't want to be doing this. But like I said, in my mind, I figured I had kind of blown it and I wasn't in any position to be turning down work. Everybody I knew was off like getting careers and making real money and starting to become adults, right? So I was like extremely nervous and anxious about like, shit, man, I didn't get anything done in school. I kind of just partied. I fucked that up. So eventually I made it through the winter season. It was wrapping up and the irrigation season was starting. All the snow was melting and we were going around to do the system startups and do the service calls. But I realized I didn't even have a vehicle. They didn't count correctly and I was the only one left without a vehicle. So I went in and told the owner. The shop, by the way, was on this massive plot of land in the country. I mean, I don't know, maybe like 50, 60 acres. Huge, right? The majority of it was just field and forest, but there was a couple barns. There was a whole portion of this land where all the lifers would park their vehicles. They all knew each other, and after work every day, they'd go over there, have massive skid fires, burn old couches, dressers. Like these guys were bringing shit into work that they didn't want anymore or found on the side of the road so they could burn it at night. They would drink there all night, do drugs. Some of the guys would pass out in their vehicles and then just get up in the morning still at the shop and start their day. So I didn't have a vehicle. All these other guys were sorting out their shit and the boss is just like, "Oh man, like and he's just like trying to think of something for me to do and he just tells me to clean up, the area, the shop." And I was like, this is like fucking 60 acres. Like, you want me to rake a field? Like, what do you want me to do? He's like, "Oh, go clean out this shed." And he had to show me it like on a map because it was so far away. It was in the middle of nowhere, like in the woods. I was like, Nobody's been in here in like 30 years. I was like, what am I doing? I spent like 2 days just literally sitting beside this shed in the woods doing nothing. Eventually, he made me clean up all the empties, return all of them, clean out the fire pit, and like find new shit for them to burn. Completely pointless, useless jobs, like tasks. Like I could tell this guy had absolutely no idea what to do with me. But eventually, he gets this horrid piece of shit van that broke down all the time, and I had to like rely on this thing. I mean, I was out in the middle of nowhere sometimes, but then I would have to call guys all the time to be like, bro, my fucking van stopped working. And these guys would either be not answering their phone, being annoyed that I needed assistance, and would be like refusing to come out there. And I was like, dude, I'm stuck on the side of this fucking highway. I need somebody to come out here. I'm not going to pay out of pocket to like call like a service or something. You know what I mean? So these guys were like, it just sucked. Just everything about it was like, I was like nervous to call the boss to be like, hey, I need help. I need to ask a question. I didn't want to call any of my coworkers because I was, again, nervous about it. They were all dickheads. The very first day I started, I remember walking on the property and there was a guy and he pulled up in a truck. It was the end of my shift, right? And I was going to my locker to get my stuff. And this guy pulls up in a truck and he's like, yo, are you the new guy? And I was like, oh, okay, I guess this guy's going to introduce himself to me. I was like, yeah, man, what's going on? How's your day going, right? He's like, can you go in the shop and get your package and get all your paperwork? I'm trying to close up and get the fuck out of here, and your shit's just sitting on the desk. Go get it. And he just gets like really aggravated. By the way, nobody even told me that was in there. So I was like, okay, man, sorry, I'll go get it. And I went and grabbed it. He said nothing. He just like locks the door behind me and peels off. So that's a prime example of how all these guys were just miserable people. This one guy came in and he was working with us, and his wife was pregnant, and he was telling us about how he was going to be a father, and, you know, a kid was on the way, all this. And I was just like, oh man, that's awesome. Congratulations. Are you excited? And he was just like, why the fuck would I be excited about that? You think I have the money for that shit? And he was like so mad that I congratulated him. And I was like, why are you telling us this then? I don't know, man. Just being around these people was the most draining thing ever. So eventually I did get my van. I got it all stocked up. Like I said, it did break down on me all the time, but when it wasn't breaking down, I was basically just driving around doing service calls, and the amount of calls these people would give me was crazy. When I would go home when I was in school and I would work for the summer, I also worked for another landscaping irrigation company, and I did service there, but they gave us like a respectable amount of calls, the normal amount, and they accounted for like if something goes wrong at one of them, you know, it's not going to completely destroy my day and I'll be out there till 12 at night. You know what I mean? Not these guys. On my call sheet, it was 1 an hour and it was 8 to 8. And I was like, bro, this is insane. I would be out there all night, like, because it was my responsibility to finish every single call on that sheet. If I didn't, they were pissed. But if I came in late, because now the boss was going to be paying me like a crazy long day, he was also pissed. So I was like, bro, what do you want me to do here? I'm trying to like do everything and do it well, but he's getting annoyed that it's taking me too long. But I'm also like, dude, there's so much to do. I can't stress to you guys. Like I said, I worked at another company doing this. It was normal. This was never a problem. We constantly backed people up. I would go to other guys' calls if my day was done and vice versa. But at this company, you were out on your own. My very final day at this place before I quit, I was working service again. I was having an extremely long day, like another 8 to 8, and the calls start at 8. So I'm actually at the shop at like 6 a.m. But my very final call, I'm supposed to be showing up to their house at 8 p.m., which means like no matter what, I'm getting back to the shop, driving home. It's like 10. These were the longest, excruciating days I've ever worked, and I've done other laborious jobs like I keep saying. My very first call, it absolutely starts downpouring, thunderstorms, just horrible conditions, like backyards are flooding because it's raining so much, right? It's the springtime in Canada, so it's common. Do you know how hard it is to fix a leak when the ground around you is also flooding, so I can't figure out at all where the water is coming from? It's horrible. I stayed in the pouring rain for like over 12 hours that day. Anybody I was going to their house to do service was so annoyed because I was just this horrendously soaking wet, muddy, messy dude, and I had to walk through their house to go to the basement and like do all the shit to turn on, you know, the water and the sprinkler system and program the controller. do all this stuff, right? And I was just gross. And I was like apologizing, being like, I don't know why they're keeping us out here. Anyways, I did that. All the other guys like wrapped up early that day and called it, and nobody told me. So I was calling people for like assistance, being like, yo, if your day's done, can you please come help me out? I still have like 7 of these calls to get to. Nobody answered their phone. They left me high and dry. I got back to the shop. Everybody's van was parked, gone, shut down for the day. I mean, I literally had to unlock the gate to let myself in. Like they closed up as if everybody was done. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck all these people. I threw all my shit in the locker and was just like texted the boss being like, the keys for the van are in the locker. Peace. I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. All the guys that were working this job and were the lifers were the most miserable people I'd ever met in my life. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't be one of these guys. I did about half a year here and I was dreading each day, always waking up, debating quitting, right? Anxious. It was very common to go like multiple days without speaking to anybody I worked with. I was nervous to talk to them. I didn't want to talk to them at all. They were always super mean. I was scared to ask any questions and I was just becoming super anxious and miserable. I was literally turning in to them and I was like, you know what? I'm done. This is not for me. It's not worth sacrificing my mental health, right? Anyways, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Peace.